The gateway station floated in the darkness of space like a giant metal flower. Its arms stretched out in every direction, each one glowing with the lights of 1,000 windows. Ships from across the galaxy docked there every day. Some were small and quick. Others were massive cargo vessels that moved like sleeping giants. Today, a new ship approached. A human ship. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Pioneer's Hope and watched the station grow larger on the screen. He was a tall man with short brown hair and eyes that had seen too many fights. Scars marked his hands and face. He wore a simple gray uniform, but anyone who looked closely would notice the way he stood, always balanced, always ready, like a predator waiting. "They're sending a security team to board us," said Lieutenant Amy Harrison from her station. She was younger than Morrison, with red hair tied back tight. Her fingers moved across the controls without looking. "Standard inspection before we can dock." Morrison nodded. "Tell them we'll cooperate fully. This is our first time here. Let's not cause problems." The crew prepared the airlock. Morrison waited there with Harrison and 2 other crew members. They all wore the same gray uniforms. They all stood the same way, patient but alert. When the airlock opened, they got their first look at alien security. Commander Vexadal entered first. He was tall, maybe 7 feet, with a body that looked like it was made of dark green armor plates. His head was narrow with huge compound eyes that reflected light like mirrors. 4 arms hung at his sides, each ending in 3-fingered hands. Behind him came 6 more security officers of different species. All of them carried devices that Morrison recognized as scanners. "I am Commander Vexthal," the insect-like alien said. His voice came through a translator device. "You are the first humans to arrive at Gateway Station. We must inspect your vessel and inventory all weapons. This is standard procedure for all new species." "Understood, Commander," Morrison said. "We're happy to comply." Vexthal's eyes focused on Morrison. "We will begin with personal items. Please surrender any weapons you are carrying." Morrison nodded. He reached to his belt and pulled out a pistol from its holster. Black metal, well maintained. He set it on the table the security team had brought. "My sidearm," he said. Vexthal's mandibles clicked. One of his officers scanned the weapon and made a note. "Thank you." "That is all?" "No," Morrison said. He reached behind his back and pulled out another pistol. Smaller than the first, he placed it next to the other one. "Backup piece." The security team exchanged glances. Morrison continued. From a holster under his arm came a third pistol. From his boot, a knife with a 6-inch blade. From his other boot, another knife. From a sheath at the small of his back, a combat blade with a serrated edge. Vexathal's eyes widened. "Captain Morrison, how many weapons are you carrying?" "I'm getting to them," Morrison said calmly. He opened his jacket. Inside were sewn dozens of small pockets and sheaths. From them he pulled throwing knives, a gahocha wire, a small can of pepper spray, 3 different types of grenades, a collapsible baton, a knuckle duster, a ceramic knife that wouldn't show up on most scanners. The table was getting full. The security officers stared. Morrison kept going. From his belt buckle, which was actually a hidden compartment, came lockpicks and a razor blade. From his watch, a small cutting tool. From the heels of his boots, plastic explosive charges. From pockets in his pants, ammunition, more knives, and what looked like poison capsules. "By the void," one of the security officers whispered in their own language. Morrison removed his jacket and showed more hidden compartments in his shirt. A garment that looked normal was actually a tactical vest, more magazines of ammunition, medical supplies that included syringes of combat drugs, a small electronic device that could hack simple locks. 2 more knives of different designs. "Captain Morrison," Vexthal said slowly, "why do you carry so many weapons? Are you an assassin? A criminal?" Morrison looked surprised. "What? No. This is standard loadout for any human traveling in unknown space. I actually went light because this is supposed to be a peaceful diplomatic mission." "Light?" Vexthal's voice went up. "You call this light?" "Yeah," Harrison added. The captain left his heavy weapons on the ship. And his armor. "This is just his everyday carry." Vexathal's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of distress. He turned to his team. "Scan all of them. Full body scans." The scanners revealed that every human on the bridge was similarly armed. Harrison had 32 weapons on her person. The other 2 crew members each had over 20. The security team's devices started beeping warnings about the sheer quantity of dangerous materials. "This is unacceptable," Vexthal said. Your entire crew must surrender all weapons immediately. We will conduct a full inspection of your ship. Morrison kept his voice calm. Commander, with respect, we're happy to store our weapons during our stay at the station. But we can't surrender everything. We need to be able to defend our ship. Defend from what? Vexthal asked. Gateway Station is completely safe. We have not had a violent incident in 17 years. That's good to hear, Morrison said. But space is dangerous, pirates, raiders, equipment malfunctions. We need to be prepared for anything. Pirates? Vexthal seemed confused. The shipping lanes are patrolled. Raiders were eliminated decades ago. Your weapons are unnecessary and threatening to other species. Morrison exchanged a glance with Harrison. She shrugged slightly. They were both thinking the same thing. These aliens had lived in peace for so long they had forgotten that danger existed. Commander? Morrison tried again. I understand this might seem strange to you. But humans come from a different background. Our world has never been peaceful. We've been fighting since before we had tools. It's in our nature to be prepared. Then your nature is dangerous, Vexthal said. I must report this to the station administrator. Your ship will remain here while we decide what to do. The security team began a full sweep of the Pioneer's Hope. What they found made the situation worse. In the crew quarters, each bunk had a locker. Every locker contained personal weapons. The ship's cook had knives designed for both cooking and combat. The engineer's tools were all designed to double as weapons. Even the medical officer had a combat shotgun in the infirmary, along with enough medical supplies to treat battlefield wounds. When they reached the ship's armory, Vexthal stopped counting. Racks of rifles, boxes of grenades, anti-armor weapons, combat armor, enough equipment to outfit a small army. The humans called it standard supplies for deep space travel. How many weapons are on this ship? Vexthal demanded. Harrison checked a tablet. Personal weapons or ship weapons? All of them. Well, counting ammunition and explosive charges, about 12,000 individual items, give or take. Vexthal's translator made a sound like a gasp. 12,000? For a crew of 30? It's a 6-month mission, Harrison explained. We need spares and replacements, plus training supplies, and emergency reserves. This is actually a pretty light loadout. Military ships carry 5 times this much. The commander's mandibles clicked so fast they blurred. He stepped away and spoke rapidly into a communication device. Morrison could hear the alarm in his voice even through the translator. Morrison turned to Harrison. I think we might have a problem. You think? She replied quietly. A small alien appeared at the airlock. This one looked like a fox standing on 2 legs, covered in orange fur with a bushy tail. He wore a blue uniform with translator equipment hanging from his neck. His large ears twitched as he took in the scene. Captain Morrison, the fox-like alien said, I am Zik's cultural liaison. I was assigned to study humans and prepare for your arrival. I tried to warn them about this. Warn them about what? Morrison asked. About how many weapons you carry. I read every report from Earth. I tried to explain to the security division that humans are different. That you come from a world of constant warfare. That being armed is as natural to you as breathing. Zik's ears drooped. They did not believe me. They thought I was exaggerating. Morrison looked at the small alien with new respect. You actually understood. I tried, Zik said. But understanding and accepting are different things. Commander Vexthal comes from a species that eliminated all weapons 300 years ago. They view any weapon as a sign of primitive aggression. To them, you look like dangerous barbarians. We're not barbarians, Harrison said. We're careful, prepared. I know, Zik said. But try explaining that to someone who has never faced danger. Someone who thinks peace is the natural state of the universe. Vexthal returned. Captain Morrison, I have spoken with the station administrator. Your ship is being quarantined pending a decision from the Galactic Council. No crew may leave. No supplies may be transferred. You will wait here until the Council decides whether humanity poses a threat to galactic peace. Morrison felt anger rise but pushed it down. Getting angry would only confirm their fears. Commander, we came here in peace. We're not a threat to anyone. We're just different. Different, Vexthal repeated. Yes, that is the problem. You are too different. Too dangerous. He gestured at the weapons covering every surface. This is not normal. This is not civilized. The Council will decide your fate. The security team left. Zix remained behind looking apologetic. Morrison. The Pioneer's Hope stayed locked in place at the edge of Gateway Station for 3 days. No one came. No one left. The crew could see other ships docking and leaving, but they remained isolated, like a disease that needed to be contained. Morrison spent the time reviewing everything they knew about galactic civilization. It was not much. Humanity had only received the coordinates for Gateway Station 2 years ago. A probe had found them, broadcasting on frequencies humans could detect. The message was simple. Come to these coordinates. We want to meet you. So humanity built the Pioneer's Hope. They selected a crew of 30, scientists, diplomats, engineers, and they put Morrison in charge because he had experience with first contact situations. On Earth, that meant dealing with hostile colonies or pirate groups. He never imagined it would mean explaining why humans carried weapons. On the morning of the 4th day, Zix arrived at their airlock. The small fox-like alien looked nervous. His tail twitched constantly and his ears kept flattening against his head. "Captain Morrison," he said, "the Council has sent investigators. They want to examine your ship and interview your crew. They are trying to understand humans before making a decision." "What kind of decision?" Harrison asked. She stood behind Morrison with her arms crossed. Zix's ears drooped. "Whether to allow humans into galactic space, or whether to quarantine your entire species." "Quarantine," Morrison repeated. The word tasted bitter. "Lock humanity away from the rest of the galaxy because we believe in being prepared." "Not everyone wants that," Zix said quickly. "Some council members are curious. Some even admire your caution. But many are frightened. They see your weapons and think of war. They imagine humans spreading violence across peaceful worlds." The investigators arrived an hour later. There were 5 of them, each from a different species. They wore matching gray robes and carried recording devices. They moved through the ship slowly, examining everything. They spent hours in the armory, documenting each weapon. They interviewed every crew member, asking the same questions over and over. "Why do you carry so many weapons? When was the last time you used them? Do you expect to fight? Are humans naturally aggressive?" The crew answered honestly. They explained that most had military backgrounds, that on Earth military service was common, that the weapons were for defense, not attack, that being unarmed felt wrong to them, dangerous, like walking around naked. The investigators did not seem convinced. They made notes and exchanged glances. Morrison could see their doubt. To them, the humans looked like warriors, like killers, like a threat. Lieutenant Harrison requested a private meeting with Morrison after the investigators left. They met in his quarters, a small room with a bed, a desk, and walls covered in pictures from Earth. Mountains, oceans, cities gleaming with lights. "Captain," she said, "we need to talk about our situation." "I know what you're going to say," Morrison replied. "We should have hidden some weapons. Lied about our capabilities. That's not what I was going to say." Harrison sat down across from him. "I was going to say we need to help them understand. Not just accept. Really understand why we are the way we are." Morrison leaned back. "How do you explain 10,000 years of constant warfare to species that have been at peace for centuries? How do you make them understand that we're not monsters? We're survivors." "Tell them about Earth," Harrison said. "Really tell them. Not just dates and wars. Tell them what it was like. Why we had to be strong. Why we had to be armed." Morrison thought about it. About Earth's history. Tribes fighting over water. Nations fighting over land. Planets fighting over resources. Humanity had never known true peace. Even now, with colonies spreading across dozens of systems, conflicts still erupted. Pirates raided shipping lanes. Colonies fought over territorial disputes. Criminal organizations operated in the shadows. For humans, carrying a weapon was not paranoia. It was common sense. "I'll try," he said. "When they call me to testify, I'll explain. But I don't know if they'll listen." The call came the next day. Morrison was summoned to appear before the Galactic Council. Not the full council, Zix explained, but a special committee formed to evaluate humanity. 15 representatives from different species, each with a vote on whether to allow humans into galactic society. Morrison dressed in his formal uniform, gray with silver trim, no weapons. He felt naked without them, but carrying weapons to this meeting would destroy any chance humanity had. Harrison and 2 other crew members accompanied him as witnesses. Gateway Station was massive inside. Corridors stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of aliens moved through the passages. Morrison saw species of every shape and size. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some floated using internal gas bladders. Some were so small they rode in mechanical suits to interact with larger species. None of them were armed. That was the first thing Morrison noticed. In the crowds of thousands, he saw no weapons. Not even security forces carried guns. They had stun devices at most. Tools meant to calm, not kill. It made him nervous. All these beings packed together with no way to defend themselves. What would happen if something went wrong? A fire? A hull breach? A hostile attack? They would panic, stampede, die by the hundreds because they had no training, no weapons, no preparation. He kept these thoughts to himself. Saying them would only make things worse. The committee chamber was circular with seats rising up on all sides. Morrison stood in the center on a small platform. Lights focused on him from above. Around him, the 15 committee members sat in their designated places. Some looked curious. Some looked afraid. Some looked angry. A tall being made of what looked like living crystal spoke first. Its voice echoed strangely. Captain Morrison, you represent humanity's first contact with our civilization. We have reviewed the reports. We have seen the weapons your crew carries. We have one question. Why? Morrison took a breath. Because we come from a dangerous place. Earth is not like your worlds. It has never been peaceful. From the moment life began there, it was a struggle. Fight or die, adapt or go extinct. Many worlds faced challenges in their early history, another member said. This one looked like a floating jellyfish with bioluminescent patterns. We all evolved. We all grew past such primitive stages. Humanity did grow, Morrison replied. We went from clubs to nuclear weapons in 10,000 years. We spread across our solar system. We built colonies. We developed faster than light travel. We did all of this while fighting. Always fighting. That is precisely our concern, said a third member, a small reptilian creature. You bring your violence with you. Your conflicts. Your weapons. We bring our preparedness, Morrison corrected. There is a difference. We don't seek fights, but we're ready if they come to us. Because in our experience, they always do. Your experience is limited to your own violent culture, the crystal being said. In galactic space, such violence is rare. Pirates were eliminated decades ago. Wars ended centuries before your species discovered fire. We have peace. You have peace because everyone agrees to have peace, Morrison said. But what happens when someone disagrees? What happens when the peace breaks? It does not break, the jellyfish member said firmly. We have evolved past such behavior. Morrison looked around at the 15 faces. They believed what they were saying. They truly thought they had left violence behind, that it was a phase of development, like learning to use tools or discovering agriculture, something primitive species did before becoming civilized. I hope you're right, he said quietly. I hope the galaxy is as safe as you believe. But humanity has learned not to hope. We prepare instead. Preparation implies expectation of conflict, the reptilian said. You expect violence, therefore you bring violence with you. We bring the ability to defend ourselves, Harrison spoke up from where she stood behind Morrison. That's not the same thing, is it not? The crystal being leaned forward. If everyone carries weapons, someone will use them. Violence creates more violence. Or, Morrison said, everyone being armed prevents violence, because no one wants to start a fight they might lose. The committee members talked among themselves. Morrison could not understand their languages, but he understood their body language. Doubt, fear, confusion. They did not know what to do with humanity. A species that looked civilized but thought like warriors. That spoke of peace while carrying enough weapons to wage war. Finally, the crystal being spoke again. We will deliberate further. Captain Morrison, you and your crew will remain quarantined pending our decision. That is all. Morrison left the chamber with Harrison. They walked in silence back to their ship. Around them, thousands of unarmed aliens went about their lives. Happy, peaceful, unaware that somewhere in the darkness between stars, things might be different. Back on the Pioneer's Hope, Morrison stood in the armory. Rows of weapons gleamed under the lights, each one carefully maintained, each one ready to use if needed. He ran his hand along a rifle barrel. Do you think they'll accept us? Harrison asked from the doorway. Morrison did not answer right away. He was thinking about Earth, about all the wars, all the dead, all the lessons learned in blood. Humanity had paid a high price to become what it was, strong, capable, dangerous when necessary. The full Galactic Council met 7 days after Morrison's testimony. It was a rare event. Most decisions were made by committees or regional groups. But the question of humanity required everyone's voice. 500 representatives gathered in the Grand Chamber, a massive sphere that floated in the center of Gateway Station. Morrison was not invited to attend. He watched from the Pioneer's Hope through a live transmission that Zix had arranged. The small fox-like alien sat with him in the observation room, his tail wrapped nervously around his feet. "This is unprecedented," Zix said. "No species has ever been debated this intensely. Usually, new members are welcomed with simple ceremonies, but humans have made them question everything." On the screen, the council chamber filled with beings of every type. Morrison tried to count the species but gave up after 50. Some he could identify from his briefing materials. The Harmonians, peaceful and tall with pale blue skin. The Korthax, warriors who valued honor and strength. The Silicates, living crystals who communicated through light patterns. The Aquarians, water breathers in specialized suits. Each one had an opinion about humanity. And most of those opinions were not good. A Harmonian representative spoke first. "We have reviewed the evidence. Humanity carries more weapons per individual than any species in recorded history. They teach violence to their young. They celebrate warriors in their culture. They are too dangerous to join our civilization." Morrison felt anger rise but forced it down. The Harmonian was not wrong exactly. Just incomplete. Yes, humans taught children to fight, but they also taught them when not to fight. The difference mattered. A Korthax stood next. This one was massive, over 8 feet tall with red scales and 4 arms. "I disagree. Humanity's approach is honest. They do not hide their capabilities. They do not pretend to be weak. This is honorable. We should welcome such directness." "Honesty about violence is still violence," a Silicate argued. Their words appeared as text on the screen since they communicated through light. "Peace requires the absence of weapons, not their transparent display." The debate continued for hours. Morrison watched as species split into clear groups. Peaceful species wanted humanity rejected. Warrior cultures supported acceptance. Species in between were torn, seeing both sides. Then something unexpected happened. A representative Morrison did not recognize stood up. This being was small, barely 4 feet tall, with gray skin and large black eyes. They spoke in a quiet voice that somehow carried through the entire chamber. "I am Counselor Thane of the Observers. My species has existed for over 10,000 years. We have watched civilizations rise and fall across this galaxy. We have seen patterns that others miss because they only live a few centuries." The chamber went silent. The observers were legendary, ancient. They rarely spoke in council meetings, but when they did, everyone listened. "Humanity reminds us of something," Thane continued. "Something we had forgotten. The galaxy was not always peaceful. 2,000 years ago, before most of your species joined the council, there were threats. Pirates who raided colonies. Warlords who conquered systems. Species that preyed on the weak." Murmurs spread through the chamber. This was ancient history. Most species only knew it from old records. "Those threats were eliminated," Thane said, "but not by pacifists. They were eliminated by warriors. Species that knew how to fight, that were willing to fight. Once the threats were gone, those warrior species either died out or evolved into peaceful cultures. And we all forgot the lessons they taught us." "What lessons?" a Harmonian asked. "That peace is not the natural state of the universe," Thane replied. "It is maintained. By vigilance. By preparation. By those willing to stand between the innocent and the dangerous. Humanity has not forgotten this lesson. That makes them valuable, not threatening." Morrison leaned forward. Finally, someone understood. Someone saw past the weapons to the reason for carrying them. "But we have peace now," the Silicate argued. "We have had it for centuries. Why would we need warriors?" Thane's large eyes seemed to look directly through the camera at Morrison. "Because peace does not last forever, and when it breaks, you will need someone who remembers how to defend it." The chamber erupted in debate. Species shouted arguments at each other. Some demanded immediate votes. Others wanted more investigation. The chaos continued until the council chair called for order. "We will vote," the chair announced. "But first let us review new evidence that has come to light." A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a ship. Not the Pioneer's Hope, but another human vessel. The cargo ship Darwin's Star. Morrison recognized it immediately. It had left Earth 3 months before them. taking a different route to the galactic core. This recording was found in our archives, the chair said. It was filed as a minor incident, but in light of recent events it requires examination. The hologram played. It showed the Darwin star traveling through empty space. Then 5 ships appeared. They were rough, cobbled together from parts of different vessels. Their hulls were scarred and burned. Pirates, raiders, things the Council claimed no longer existed. Morrison felt cold. The Council had been lying. Or more accurately, they had been lying to themselves, believing their own propaganda about peace while ignoring evidence that contradicted it. The pirate ships attacked. They fired crude weapons at the Darwin star. The cargo ship's shields held easily. Then the Darwin star returned fire. Not with crude weapons, with precise, devastating shots that disabled 3 pirate ships in seconds. The other 2 fled. The hologram showed the aftermath. The Darwin star crew boarded 1 disabled pirate vessel. They found a crew of various species, criminals and outcasts. They had been operating in the outer systems for years, raiding isolated colonies and cargo ships. Ships too ashamed to report being attacked by something that was not supposed to exist. The humans neutralized a threat we did not acknowledge, Counselor Thane said quietly. They did it efficiently and with minimal casualties. Then they reported it to local authorities who filed it away and forgot about it. Because admitting pirates exist would mean admitting our peace is not perfect. The chamber was silent now. 500 representatives stared at the evidence of their own willful ignorance. They had created a culture where acknowledging danger was seen as primitive, where preparing for threats was considered paranoid, and in doing so, they had made themselves vulnerable. How many other incidents have been filed away? A Korthax demanded. How many colonies have suffered while we pretended everything was safe? The chair looked uncomfortable. We will investigate, but that is not today's question. Today we must decide about humanity. I propose a compromise, Thane said. We grant humanity provisional membership, but we also task them with something. Let them prove their weapons are for defense, not conquest. Let them show us they can use their capabilities to protect rather than threaten. What kind of task? The Harmonian representative asked nervously. Thane manipulated controls. Another hologram appeared. This one showed a peaceful colony world called New Harmony. Green fields, blue oceans, cities built with flowing organic architecture. It looked like paradise. New Harmony has experienced mysterious disappearances, Thane explained. Over the past 6 months, 300 colonists have vanished. The local authorities cannot explain it. They have no security forces, no investigators trained for such work. They are peaceful beings who do not understand danger. You want to send armed humans to a peaceful world? A silicate protested. That is madness. No, Thane replied. It is a test. If humans are truly defensive, not aggressive, they will solve this mystery and protect the colonists. If they are the threat we fear, they will reveal themselves. Either way, we will know the truth. Morrison leaned back in his chair. A test, of course. They would not simply accept humanity. They needed proof, and they were offering a chance to provide it. What do you think? Zix asked quietly. Will you accept? Do we have a choice? Morrison replied. If we refuse, they'll see it as admission we're dangerous. If we accept and fail, same result. But if we accept and succeed, we might prove humanity deserves a place here. The council voted. It was not unanimous. Many peaceful species voted against any form of acceptance, but enough voted in favor that the compromise passed. Humanity would have its chance. 1 mission, 1 test. Succeed and join the galaxy. Fail and be sent home, with Earth's coordinates marked as quarantine space. The transmission ended. Morrison sat in silence for a long moment. Then he activated the ship-wide intercom. All crew report to the briefing room in 30 minutes. We have a mission. Harrison was the first to arrive at the briefing room. What happened? Are we going home? Not yet, Morrison said. We have a chance to prove ourselves. A colony world with missing people. We investigate and provide security recommendations. And if we find what's causing the disappearances, Morrison smiled grimly, then we do what humans do best. We protect those who can't protect themselves. And we show the galaxy that being armed doesn't make us dangerous. It makes us dangerous to the things that threaten innocent people. The crew assembled, 30 men and women who had volunteered to represent humanity among the stars. Each one was skilled. Each one was... New Harmony lived up to its name. The planet was beautiful. Green forests stretched across continents. Blue oceans reflected perfect skies. Cities grew from the landscape like natural formations, their architecture blending with nature rather than dominating it. Everything looked peaceful, safe, perfect. The Pioneer's Hope entered orbit and Morrison studied the world below. He had seen many planets during his career. Some were harsh mining colonies, others were military outposts. A few were Earth-like paradise worlds claimed by the wealthy. New Harmony was different. It felt innocent, like it had never known conflict. That innocence made him nervous. "I'm reading the population as approximately 2 million, Harrison reported from her station. All Harmonians. No mixed species. No military installations, no defensive satellites. Captain, this place has no defenses at all. Not even police?" Another crew member asked. "They have mediators," Zix explained. The small alien had asked to accompany them as a liaison. Harmonians believe conflict comes from misunderstanding. They talk through problems. The idea of forcing compliance is foreign to them. Morrison shook his head. 2 million people with no way to defend themselves, and 300 have disappeared. Whatever is taking them knows they're easy targets. They received clearance to land at the capital city. The spaceport was small and pristine. No military ships, no cargo vessels carrying weapons or armor, just peaceful transports bringing supplies and visitors. A delegation waited for them at the landing pad. Harmonians were tall and slender with pale blue skin and large eyes. They wore flowing robes in soft colors. Everything about them suggested gentleness, peace, vulnerability. The lead Harmonian stepped forward. "I am Governor Lyran. Welcome to New Harmony. The Council has informed us you are here to help with our situation." Morrison noticed the governor's eyes focus on his weapons belt. Even though he had reduced his loadout to just 3 visible weapons, it was apparently still too much for these people. "Thank you for having us, Governor," Morrison said. "We understand you've been experiencing disappearances." "Yes." Lyran's expression was troubled. 300 of our people have vanished over 6 months. We cannot understand it. Harmonians do not simply leave without notice. We are a connected community. These disappearances make no sense. "Have you found any evidence?" Harrison asked. "Bodies? Signs of struggle? Anything unusual at the sites where people went missing?" Lyran looked confused. "Bodies? Why would there be bodies, and what is a struggle?" Morrison and Harrison exchanged glances. These people truly did not understand violence. They had no framework for thinking about predators or threats. To them, the disappearances were a mystery, a puzzle, not an attack. "Governor, we need to see the locations where people disappeared," Morrison said. "All of them. And we need access to any security footage or sensor logs you have." "We do not have security systems," Lyran said. "Such things imply distrust. But we have environmental monitors. They track weather and ecological data. Would those help?" "They might," Harrison said. "We'll take anything we can get." The crew spent 3 days investigating. They visited sites where Harmonians had vanished, parks, homes, workplaces. The disappearances followed no obvious pattern. Different times of day, different locations, different types of people. But Harrison noticed something the Harmonians had missed. The disappearances clustered near the edges of settlements, parks bordering forests, homes near agricultural zones, workplaces close to undeveloped areas. Whoever was taking people preferred targets that were isolated, separated from the main population. "It's a hunting pattern," she told Morrison on the 3rd night. They sat in their temporary quarters, reviewing data. "Someone is stalking the colony, taking people from the edges, testing how long it takes anyone to notice." "Raiders?" Morrison asked. "Maybe, or slavers, or something else. But definitely organized. They're patient, careful. They know this world has no defenses." Morrison pulled up a star chart. New Harmony is isolated, no military presence nearby. The shipping lanes pass through this system, but most vessels just use it as a waypoint. They don't stop. Perfect target for raiders who want to operate without interference. "We need to tell the governor," Harrison said. They met with Lyran the next morning. Morrison explained their findings, the hunting pattern, the isolation of victims, the likelihood that organized criminals were responsible. Lyran listened with growing distress. "You are suggesting someone is deliberately taking our people? For what purpose?" "Slavery, most likely," Morrison said. "Harmonians are valuable, healthy, educated, peaceful. Some species would pay well for such workers, especially if those workers are too gentle to resist." The governor's face paled. "This is horrible. We must contact the council, request assistance, proper authorities to investigate." "That will take weeks," Harrison said, "and by then more people will disappear. We're here now. Let us help." "Help how?" Lyran asked nervously, his eyes drifting to Morrison's weapons again. "We set up surveillance at the likely target zones," Morrison explained. "We wait for the raiders to make another attempt. When they do, we stop them." "Stop them," Lyran repeated slowly. "You mean with violence?" "If necessary," Morrison said. "But hopefully just our presence will discourage them. Raiders prefer easy targets. Armed opposition usually sends them looking elsewhere. I cannot authorize violence on New Harmony," Lyran said firmly. "It goes against everything we believe, everything we are." "Governor," Harrison said carefully, 300 of your people are gone. That number will keep growing. We can help, but only if you let us." Lyran was silent for a long moment. Morrison could see the conflict on his face. Everything in his culture, his entire world view, rejected the idea of violence. But he was also responsible for his people, for their safety. "I must consult with the Council of Elders," Lyran finally said. "This is too important a decision for one person." While the Harmonians debated, Morrison took his own precautions. He had the crew set up sensor nets around the colony's perimeter, passive systems that would detect movement and energy signatures. If raiders came, they would at least have warning. On the 5th night, the sensors triggered. 3 contacts approaching from the forest, moving fast, organized, definitely not local wildlife. Morrison assembled a team. 6 crew members, all armed, all trained. They moved quietly to intercept the contacts. Through night vision equipment, they could see the raiders clearly. 7 beings in dark armor, carrying stun weapons and what looked like restraint devices. The raiders were heading toward a cluster of homes at the colony's edge, isolated, easy targets. They moved with the confidence of predators who had done this many times before. Morrison positioned his team in a loose circle around the raiders' approach path. They waited in silence, professional, patient. When the raiders were fully surrounded, Morrison activated a floodlight. "Stop where you are," he called out in Galactic Common. "You're surrounded. Put down your weapons and you will not be harmed." The raiders froze. Then they saw what surrounded them. Humans, armed humans. Their weapons tracked every movement with steady precision. The raiders had expected no resistance. Instead, they faced trained soldiers. For a moment, no one moved. Morrison could feel the tension. The raiders were calculating odds, trying to decide if they could fight their way out. "Don't," Harrison said quietly from her position. "We don't want to hurt you, but we will if we have to." One raider raised his weapon. Morrison's shot took it out of his hand before he could aim. The crack of the gunshot echoed across the quiet colony. The raider stared at his empty hand, then at the weapon smoking on the ground. "Next one won't be a warning," Morrison said. The raiders surrendered. They dropped their weapons and raised their hands. Morrison's team secured them quickly and efficiently. No one was injured. No one died. Just a clean capture. But the gunshot had awakened the colony. Lights came on in homes. Harmonians emerged, confused and frightened. They had never heard a weapon discharge before. The sound terrified them. Governor Lyran arrived with a group of mediators. He stared at the scene. Armed humans standing over captured raiders. Weapons on the ground. The smell of discharged firearms in the air. "What have you done?" he whispered. "We stopped them," Morrison said. "These are your raiders, the ones taking your people. We caught them before they could take anyone else. With violence, Lyran said. You brought violence to our world. We brought protection, Harrison corrected. No one was killed. No one was even seriously hurt. We stopped criminals using the minimum force necessary. One of the captured raiders laughed bitterly. You Harmonians are fools. We've been taking your people for months. 300 slaves sold across the outer systems. You're so peaceful you couldn't even imagine someone might hurt you. Lyran's face showed horror, not at the raiders, at the confirmation that violence had been happening to his people, that their peaceful worldview had made them victims. Where are they? Morrison demanded of the raider. The people you took. Where are they being held? The raider spat. Go to hell, human. Morrison stepped closer. You can tell me now, or you can tell the council authorities later. Either way, we'll find them. But if you cooperate, things will go easier for you. The raider looked at Morrison's eyes, saw something there that made him. The asteroid belt around New Harmony was dense with rocks and ice. Perfect place to hide a ship. The Pioneer's Hope moved carefully through the field, sensors scanning for energy signatures. It took 3 hours to find what they were looking for. A vessel sat anchored to a large asteroid. It was bigger than the Pioneer's Hope. Ugly and functional, built from mismatched parts. Multiple airlocks suggested it had been cobbled together from several ships. Scan showed life signs, lots of them, most clustered in what looked like cargo holds. That's a slave ship, Harrison said grimly. A modified cargo vessel. They've converted the holds into cells. Morrison studied the tactical display. Defensive capabilities? Minimal. Some point defense weapons, nothing that can hurt us. They rely on stealth, not firepower. How many crew? 15 to 20. Armed but not military-grade equipment. These are criminals, not soldiers. Morrison nodded. We go in fast and hard. Breach the command deck, secure the crew, then free the prisoners. Standard boarding action. Questions? No one spoke. The crew had trained for this. Countless drills on Earth and during the journey to Gateway Station. They knew their roles. They knew the risks. They were ready. 20 crew members suited up in combat armor. Not the heavy military-grade stuff. This was lighter, designed for ship-to-ship actions. Protection against small arms and vacuum. Morrison checked his weapons. Rifle, pistol, knife, breaching charges. Everything he needed. Harrison led the tech team. Their job was to hack the slave ship's systems, lock down their weapons, control their life support, make resistance impossible. Morrison led the assault team. Their job was simpler. Get in, take control, secure the prisoners. The Pioneer's Hope maneuvered close to the slave ship, close enough for boarding pods. The plan was to hit 3 locations simultaneously. Command deck, engineering, cargo holds. Divide the enemy attention. Don't give them time to organize. Launch in 3, Morrison said. 2, 1, go. The pods shot across the gap. Magnetic clamps locked onto the slave ship's hull. Breaching charges blew holes through the metal. Humans poured through before the alarms even started. Morrison's team hit the command deck hard. 3 slavers were there monitoring systems. They reached for weapons but never made it. Stun rounds dropped them before they could raise their arms. Non-lethal. The humans were trying to prove a point. They could be violent when necessary, but they preferred restraint. Command deck secure, Morrison reported. No casualties. Engineering secure, came another voice. 4 hostiles detained. Cargo hold secure, a third team reported. Multiple prisoners found. They're alive, requesting medical support. The entire operation took 4 minutes. From first breach to complete control, the slavers never had a chance to organize, never had time to hurt the prisoners. The humans moved too fast. Too efficiently, Morrison moved to the cargo holds. What he saw made him angry. Rows of cells, each one barely large enough to stand in. Inside were Harmonians, pale and thin from weeks of captivity. They cowered when the armed humans appeared, clearly expecting more abuse. It's okay, Morrison said, removing his helmet so they could see his face. We're here to help. We're taking you home. The Harmonians stared. They had been taken by armed beings. Now armed beings were freeing them. The confusion was clear on their faces. You're from the colony, one Harmonian said weakly. You're the humans. Governor Lyran mentioned you. That's right, Morrison said. How many of you are here? All of us. 300. They kept us here, said we were being processed for sale. The Harmonian's voice broke. We thought we were going to die. Not today, Harrison said. She was already working on the cell controls. Medical teams are coming through. We'll get you checked out and then home. The rescue operation took hours. Each prisoner needed medical evaluation. Some were dehydrated. Others showed signs of abuse. But all were alive. All could be saved. The human medical team worked efficiently, treating injuries and providing comfort. Morrison interrogated the captured slavers. They were a mixed group, different species, all outcasts from civilized society. They had been operating for years, taking beings from peaceful worlds that had no defenses. No way to fight back. Why New Harmony? Morrison asked their leader, a scarred alien with cold eyes. Because they're easy, the slaver said. Pacifists. No weapons. No security. They don't even understand what we're doing until it's too late. Perfect targets. And you never thought someone might stop you? The slaver laughed. Stop us? The council doesn't even acknowledge we exist. They've convinced themselves the galaxy is safe, that everyone follows their rules. Makes our job easy. Until now, Harrison said. The slaver's smile faded. Yeah, until now. You humans are different. You actually fight back. Word's going to spread. Might make things harder for us. Good, Morrison said. That's the idea. They transferred the freed Harmonians to the Pioneer's Hope. The slave ship was secured with a skeleton crew and a beacon to guide council authorities. The slavers were restrained and locked in their own cells. Justice would be served, but through proper legal channels. The humans were trying to prove they respected law and order. The return to New Harmony took 6 hours. Long enough for Morrison to talk with some of the rescued Harmonians. He wanted to understand them. Understand how a civilization could become so peaceful, it forgot how to protect itself. One elderly Harmonian named Kessa was willing to talk. She had been among the first taken, had spent 3 months in captivity. We thought we had evolved past such things, she said. Violence, weapons, conflict, our ancestors had wars long ago. But we grew beyond them, or so we believed. What changed? Morrison asked. We joined the council, Kessa said. 200 years ago. They taught us their ways. Meditation instead of conflict. Discussion instead of force. We embraced it completely, destroyed all our weapons, disbanded our security forces, became truly peaceful. And now? Kessa looked at Morrison's weapons, at the rifle slung across his back. Now I understand the difference between being peaceful and being defenseless. We chose to be defenseless and called it evolution, but it just made us victims. Not all peaceful species are defenseless, Morrison said. You can value peace and still protect yourselves. They're not opposites. I am beginning to see that, Kessa said. You humans carry weapons, many weapons, but you use them to save us, not to conquer us. That is the lesson, I think. Weapons are tools. What matters is the person holding them. Morrison smiled. You understand better than most of the council. The Pioneer's Hope entered New Harmony's orbit to a celebration. The entire colony had gathered at the spaceport. When the rescued Harmonians emerged from the ship, there were tears and reunions, families finding loved ones they thought were lost forever. Governor Lyron waited at the landing pad. He looked older than when Morrison had first met him. The stress of the crisis had aged him, but there was something else in his expression now. Understanding, maybe even respect. Captain Morrison, Lyron said, you brought them all back. All 300. I did not think it was possible. It was possible because we were prepared, Morrison said. Because we had the tools and training to act when action was needed. Lyron nodded slowly. I owe you an apology. When you first arrived, I saw only your weapons. I thought they made you dangerous. I was wrong. The weapons made you capable. What made you safe was your discipline, your restraint, your willingness to use force only when necessary. That's what we've been trying to tell the council, Harrison said. Being armed isn't the same as being violent. Sometimes it's what prevents violence. I will report this to the council, Lyron said. Not just about the rescue. About everything I have learned. About the difference between peace and helplessness. About how we made ourselves vulnerable by forgetting that threats still exist. Morrison looked around at the celebrating Harmonians, at the families reunited, at the civilization that had learned a hard lesson about the cost of willful ignorance. What will you do now? He asked Lyron. Will you arm yourselves? Train security forces? Lyron considered the question. I do not know. It goes against our deepest beliefs. But I also cannot let my people remain vulnerable. Perhaps there is a middle path. Perhaps we can remain peaceful while also being prepared. It is something we must discuss. As a community. Take your time, Morrison said. But while you're discussing, maybe accept some help. Training for spotting threats. Basic security protocols. You don't have to become warriors, but you should at least know how to recognize danger. We would accept such help, Lyran said. From humans. From people who understand both peace and protection. That night, Morrison received a transmission from Gateway Station. Commander Vexthal appeared on the screen. The insectoid security officer who had first confronted them about their weapons. Captain Morrison, Vexthal said, I have been ordered to inform you that the Council has reviewed your actions at New Harmony. The full report from Governor Lyran and the rescued colonists, and the Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's membership. Morrison felt tension grip his chest. This was it, the moment that would determine humanity's future among the stars. You are summoned to appear before the Council, Vexthal continued, to receive their judgment. They will convene in 2 days. The Grand Chamber was packed. Every council member had come to witness the judgment. 500 species represented, billions of beings across the galaxy waiting to hear whether humanity would join them or be turned away. The pressure was enormous. Morrison stood in the center again. But this time he was not alone. Behind him stood Governor Lyran and 5 rescued Harmonians, including Kessa. They had asked to testify, to speak for humanity. It was unprecedented. A peaceful species defending warriors. The council chair called the session to order. The chamber fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop in the vast space. We are here to render judgment on humanity's petition to join galactic civilization, the chair announced. Much has happened since they first arrived. We have seen their capabilities. We have witnessed their actions. Now we must decide. Counselor Thane of the Observers spoke first. I have watched this situation closely. Humanity was sent to New Harmony as a test. They passed that test completely. They identified the threat. They neutralized it. They rescued all 300 captives without a single casualty. They showed both capability and restraint. But they used violence, a Harmonian council member argued. They brought weapons to a peaceful world. They discharged firearms. They attacked the slavers. May I speak? Governor Lyran asked. The chamber quieted. It was rare for someone not on the council to address them directly. Speak, the chair said. Lyran stepped forward. His voice was quiet but clear.
I am Harmonian.
I have spent my entire life believing violence was evil, that weapons were primitive. That conflict came from a failure to communicate. The humans challenged everything I believed, and they were right to do so. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A Harmonian defending violence? It was unthinkable. Violence was already on my world, Lyran continued. It came in the form of slavers who took 300 of my people, who preyed on our pacifism, who knew we would not resist. The humans did not bring violence to New Harmony. They brought the ability to stop it. Kessa stepped forward next. I spent 3 months in a cage, waiting to be sold. The slavers told us we were chosen because we were weak, because we had no defenses, because the council pretends threats do not exist. They were not wrong. We had made ourselves victims. The humans freed us, another rescued Harmonian added. They could have killed our captors. They had the power, but they chose restraint. They disabled, they detained, but they did not destroy. That is not the action of violent beings. That is the action of protectors. The chamber erupted in debate. Species shouted opinions at each other. Some agreed with the Harmonians. Others argued that accepting humanity would normalize violence. The argument raged for an hour. Finally, Morrison raised his hand. The gesture was simple but commanding. The chamber gradually quieted. May I speak? He asked. The chair nodded. The council will hear the human. Morrison took a breath. This was it. Everything humanity had worked for came down to this moment. These words, I understand your fear, he began. You look at us and see weapons, violence, war. You have built a civilization based on peace and you worry we will destroy it. I respect that fear, but I need you to understand something about humanity. He paused, looking around at the hundreds of faces. We do not carry weapons because we are violent. We carry them because we remember. Earth taught us that peace is fragile, that safety is temporary, that the universe does not care about our philosophies or our wishes. Threats exist whether we acknowledge them or not. So we prepare, we train, we arm ourselves, not to attack, not to conquer, but to ensure that when danger comes, we are not helpless, we are not victims. We can protect ourselves and those around us. You have peace here, Morrison continued. Beautiful, wonderful peace. But it is not free. It exists because you all agree to maintain it, because you follow rules, because you respect each other. That is admirable. But what happens when someone does not agree? When someone breaks the rules? When respect fails? The slavers at New Harmony showed you the answer. When the rules break down, the unprepared suffer. The defenseless become victims. Your peace works because nothing has seriously challenged it in centuries, but that does not mean challenges will never come. Humanity is not asking you to abandon peace. We are asking you to let us help you protect it, to be the ones who stand ready when threats emerge, to carry the weapons so others do not have to remember the old ways so the galaxy can enjoy the new ones. The chamber was silent. Morrison's words hung in the air. Simple, honest, true. We are not perfect, Morrison said quietly. We make mistakes. We have conflicts. We struggle with our own nature. But we are trying. We want to be part of something larger than ourselves. We want to contribute to galactic civilization, and we believe our contribution is valuable. We offer protection, vigilance, the willingness to stand between the innocent and the dangerous. If you accept us, we will respect your laws. We will honor your values. We will use our capabilities only in defense of those who cannot defend themselves. If you reject us, we will return to Earth. But the threats will still exist. The slavers will still operate. The dangers you pretend are gone will still be there hiding in the shadows. The choice is yours, Morrison finished. But choose based on what we have done, not what you fear we might do. Choose based on the 300 lives we saved, the restraint we showed, the responsibility we demonstrated. That is who humanity is. Not the weapons we carry, but how we choose to use them. Morrison stepped back. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then Counselor Thane stood. I call for a vote, Thane said. Humanity has proven itself. It is time to decide. The voting system activated. Each council member had 3 choices. Accept, reject, abstain. The results would not be announced until every vote was cast. Morrison watched the progress bar slowly fill. 40%, 60%, 80%, finally 100%. The chair reviewed the results. Morrison could not read the alien's expression. Could not tell if the news was good or bad. The silence stretched. Time seemed to stop. The council has voted, the chair finally announced. The results are 312 in favor, 147 against, 41 abstained. By majority vote, humanity is accepted into galactic civilization. Morrison felt his knees go weak. They had done it. Against all odds, despite their weapons, because of their actions, humanity had been accepted. Behind him, Harrison let out a breath she had been holding. The other crew members smiled, but the chair was not finished. However, humanity's membership comes with conditions. You will be designated as Peace Guardians. Your role will be to protect peaceful species from threats they cannot handle themselves. You will train security forces. You will investigate dangerous situations. You will be our defenders. You will also be monitored, the chair continued. For the first 10 years, human actions will be reviewed regularly. Any abuse of your position, any aggression beyond defense, any violation of our laws, these will result in immediate expulsion and quarantine of Earth. Do you accept these terms, Captain Morrison? Morrison did not hesitate. We accept. Humanity will be worthy of your trust. We will prove that warriors can serve peace. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some species cheered. Others looked worried. But the decision was made. Humanity had a place among the stars. Commander Vexthal approached after the session ended. Captain Morrison, it appears we will be working together. The Council has assigned me to liaison with human peace guardians, to ensure you understand our laws and protocols. Morrison extended his hand. I look forward to it, Commander. I think we can learn a lot from each other. Vexthal looked at the offered hand, then grasped it with one of his forearms. When you first arrived, I thought you were dangerous. I was correct, but I misunderstood what that meant. You are dangerous to threats, to criminals, to those who would harm the innocent. That kind of danger, I am learning to appreciate. 3 months later, the first human Peace Guardian station opened near Gateway Station. The facility trained security personnel from across the galaxy, teaching threat assessment, defensive tactics, emergency response. Everything civilized species had forgotten they needed. Morrison commanded the station. Harrison served as his second. Their crew had expanded to include aliens who wanted to learn from humans, warrior species who respected their approach, peaceful species who wanted to understand how to protect themselves without abandoning their values. New Harmony established the first security force in their history. Harmonians trained by humans. They still valued peace, still preferred discussion to conflict, but now they also understood that peace required protection, that being prepared prevented more violence than it caused. The slaver network that had operated for years was systematically dismantled. Human-led teams tracked down their bases, freed thousands of captives, brought criminals to justice. The Council could no longer pretend such threats did not exist. Humanity had forced them to acknowledge the darkness in the galaxy. 5 years after humanity's acceptance, Morrison stood in his office overlooking the station. Ships came and went constantly, humans and aliens working together, protecting the peace that had once seemed so fragile. Six entered carrying a datapad. The small fox-like alien had become